I stood by the coffin, my hands trembling, tears streaming down my face. The love of my life was gone, but then the church doors swung open, and in walked a young woman I had never seen before. She was beautiful, dressed in black, and very, very pregnant. Everyone turned to stare as she walked straight toward me, confident, like she belonged there, and then she whispered 3 words in my ear that made my blood run cold. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. My name is Catherine, and I thought I knew everything about my husband, Michael. We were married for 35 years. We built a life together, raised 2 kids, and survived every storm life threw our way, or so I thought. Because on the day I buried him, I learned the kind of secret that rips your soul apart. It was a cold morning, grey skies hanging over the church like a heavy blanket. People came in quietly, dressed in black, whispering condolences as I stood near the coffin. I could barely hear them. My head was spinning, my heart aching so badly I thought it might stop. I kept staring at Michael's face, so still, so lifeless, wondering how I was supposed to go on without him. And then the doors opened. At first I didn't pay attention. People were coming in all morning. But when the whispers started, the sharp intake of breath, the gasps, I looked up, and there she was, a young woman, no older than 30. Long dark hair, red lipstick, heels clicking against the church floor like a drumbeat, and her belly swollen with pregnancy. The whispers grew louder as she walked down the aisle, her heels echoing through the silent church. I felt every eye turn toward me as she stopped in front of me and smiled. "Hello, Catherine," she said softly, her voice smooth as silk. I blinked at her, stunned. Do I know you?" Her smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "No," she said, "but I know you." And then she leaned in, her breath warm against my ear, and whispered 3 words that shattered me. He was mine. I stumbled back, my legs weak, the room tilted. I heard someone gasp, someone else mutter, "Oh my God." But before I could speak, before I could even breathe, she reached into her purse and pulled something out, a small envelope, and without a word, she placed it in my trembling hands. Then she turned and walked away. I stood there frozen, staring at that envelope like it was a live bomb. I wanted to throw it away, burn it, pretend this never happened, but something inside me needed to know. So I opened it, and what I saw inside made me grip the edge of the coffin, just to stay standing, because it wasn't just a letter, it was a birth certificate, and the father's name, written in black ink, was Michael's. I nearly dropped it. My vision blurred as the world tilted around me. My husband, the man I loved for 35 years, the man I trusted with everything. He had another life, and this woman, this stranger, was carrying his child. The funeral continued around me, voices murmuring, hymns playing, but I couldn't hear any of it. All I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, and her voice whispering, "He was mine." What I didn't know then was that this was only the beginning, because inside that envelope, tucked behind the birth certificate, was something else, something that would turn my grief into pure, burning rage. The birth certificate slipped from my trembling fingers and fluttered to the church floor. Gasps filled the air. But I didn't care, because there was something else inside that envelope. A single photograph. I pulled it out slowly, my breath catching in my throat as my eyes focused on the image. It was Michael, Michael, smiling, laughing. his arm wrapped tightly around the same woman who had just handed me this envelope. They were standing in front of a house I didn't recognize, and in the corner of the photo, written in neat handwriting, were 4 words that made my stomach twist. Our forever home, 2023. My knees nearly buckled this year, while I was planning our anniversary trip to Italy. Michael was building a future with her. The man I buried hours ago had a whole other life I knew nothing about. Someone touched my arm. "Catherine, are you okay?" I turned to see my sister, her face pale, her eyes wide. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out, because in that moment, something inside me snapped. The grief, the heartbreak, the humiliation, it all turned into something else. Something cold, something sharp, something dangerous. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just slipped the photo back into the envelope and walked out of the church. The whispers followed me like a trail of smoke. But I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. Outside, the wind was brutal, slicing through my black coat, but I barely felt it. My mind was a storm. How long had this been going on? Who else knew? And why now would she show up at his funeral to shove this in my face? I got into my car and sat there, staring at the dashboard, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I could have driven home. I could have locked the door and drowned in my tears. But instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the last number I ever thought I'd call. When the line clicked, a smooth voice answered, "Catherine, to what do I owe the pleasure?" I took a deep breath, my voice like steel. "Daniel," I said, "I need your help." Daniel wasn't family. He wasn't a friend. He was something else, a name I'd buried along with a part of myself years ago, and if I was calling him now, it meant one thing. This wasn't just about grief anymore. This was about revenge. "Tell me everything," Daniel said. And so I did, every detail, every betrayal. By the time I finished, his voice was calm. But there was an edge to it. "You're not going to like what I'm about to tell you," he said. My heart pounded. "What?" He paused for a long, heavy second. "Catherine," he said slowly, "that woman, she's not who you think she is." And Michael, he wasn't just cheating. He was hiding something much, much bigger. My breath caught in my throat. "What are you talking about?" Daniel exhaled sharply. "Check the back of that photo now." I pulled the picture from the envelope again, my hands shaking slowly. I flipped it over, and when I saw what was written there, my stomach dropped like a stone. Because it wasn't just a note, it was an address and a date. January 15th, 2024. Just 3 weeks from now. And underneath it, 2 chilling words in bold black ink. "It begins." I sat frozen, staring at those words as a cold shiver raced down my spine. Michael was dead, but whatever he started wasn't over, and now it was my turn to finish it. The words on the back of that photo burned into my brain. It begins. What begins? Michael was dead. Whatever secret he was hiding should have died with him. But something told me it wasn't. That's simple, and Daniel's voice in my ear confirmed it. "Catherine," he said quietly, "you need to listen very carefully. That address, don't go there alone." My grip on the phone tightened. "What's there, Daniel? Tell me." A long silence stretched on before he spoke again. "Proof," he said finally. "Proof of everything Michael was involved in." My heart hammered. Involved in? Daniel, what are you saying? That he had a mistress? I already know that. Daniel's voice hardened. Catherine, this isn't about an affair. It's about something much bigger. And if she gave you that photo, it means she knows you're next. I froze. Next. For what? He didn't answer right away, and when he did, his voice was like steel. Go home, lock the doors. I'll be there in an hour. And whatever you do, don't contact her. But I didn't go home, because when your entire life falls apart in one day, you stop listening to warnings. You start needing answers, and I needed them now. So instead of heading home, I drove through icy roads and endless questions, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me alive. The address on the back of the photo led me to the edge of town, past the suburbs, past the streetlights, until I found myself on a lonely road lined with bare trees, their branches clawing at the grey sky. And then I saw it. A house. Not just any house. Massive property behind iron gates, with cameras at every corner. What was Michael doing here? I parked down the road, my breath fogging the glass as I stared at the looming mansion. I should have turned around. I should have listened to Daniel. But instead, I got out of the car. The snow crunched under my boots as I crept toward the gates. That's when I saw movement, shadows passing behind the curtains. And then the door opened. She stepped out. The mistress. Her black coat hugged her body, her pregnant belly obvious even in the dark, and in her arms was a small black briefcase. She walked to a sleek black car parked in the driveway, glancing around like she was being watched. I ducked behind a tree, my heart pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. When she opened the car door, a gust of wind blew her scarf off her neck, and that's when I saw it, a tattoo. A snake coiled around a dagger, the same tattoo Michael had on his shoulder, the one he told me was just a college thing. My stomach twisted. What was going on? And why did she look so calm, like she wasn't scared at all, like she knew exactly what she was doing? Suddenly, her head snapped in my direction, her eyes locked on mine, and she smiled, a slow, knowing smile that made my blood run cold. Then she got into the car and drove away. I ran back to my car, my hands shaking as I started the engine. My phone buzzed violently on the seat next to me, Daniel calling again. I picked it up with trembling fingers. "Catherine," he barked. "Where are you?" I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. "Daniel, she was here, at the house, and I think Michael was part of something dangerous." There was a long pause. Then Daniel said something that made my stomach drop. He wasn't just part of it, Catherine, he was running it. I gripped the wheel, my chest tight. Running what? Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. A multi-million-dollar network. Weapons, money laundering. Things you don't even want to imagine. And if that woman gave you that photo, it means she wants you dead, too. My blood turned to ice. Dead. Before I could speak, headlights flooded my rearview mirror. A black SUV. Coming fast. I barely had time to react before it slammed into the back of my car, sending me lurching forward with a scream. The phone flew from my hand as my car spun on the icy road. I hit the brakes, gripping the wheel for dear life, but the SUV hit me again harder this time until my car skidded into a ditch and everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the world was dark. My head throbbed like someone was driving nails into my skull. My wrists tied. I was in a chair. A dim light swung above me, casting long shadows across a concrete floor. The smell of damp cement and gasoline clung to the air. I wasn't in my car anymore. I wasn't anywhere safe. A voice broke the silence. Well, look who's finally awake. I froze. She stepped out of the shadows, her black coat draped over her shoulders, her hand resting casually on her swollen belly. The mistress, her heels clicked against the floor as she walked toward me, slow and deliberate, like a predator enjoying. The moment before the kill, I was wondering when you'd open those pretty eyes. She purred, crouching down so our faces were inches apart. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. What do you want? She tilted her head, smiling sweetly. What do I want, Catherine? I already have everything I want. Michael gave it to me. Her voice dripped with satisfaction as she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Money, power, security, and now she glanced at her belly. The future of his legacy. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest. Why me? Why bring me here? She laughed softly, like I'd just told the funniest joke. Because, darling, you were supposed to disappear quietly. But then you had to snoop, didn't you? The house, the photo, that little call you made to Daniel. My blood ran cold. You were listening. Oh, sweetheart, she said with a mocking smile. Michael built an empire. Do you really think he didn't keep tabs on the people closest to him? Her words twisted in my gut like a knife. Michael. The man I loved. The man I trusted. Was I nothing but a pawn in his game? She rose to her feet, her voice turning sharp as glass. You were supposed to be his cover, Catherine. The perfect little wife. The respectable face of a very dirty business. And for years, you played your part beautifully. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. You're lying, but deep down, I knew she wasn't. Because suddenly, it all made sense, the business trips, the late nights, the accounts I never understood. He wasn't working late, he was building an empire. With her. She leaned close again, her smile cruel. But now, darling, you've seen too much, and that makes you a problem. My stomach dropped. What are you going to do? She walked away slowly, her heels echoing like a ticking clock. Nothing messy, she said over her shoulder. I'm not a monster. You'll just disappear. People will think the grief was too much for you. You wandered off, lost in your sorrow. She turned, her eyes glinting in the dim light, and I'll raise Michael's child in peace, in power. Something inside me snapped. Grief turned to rage, fear turned to fire. Because if she thought I was going to let her erase me, she was dead wrong. I tugged hard at the ropes, binding my wrists, twisting until the rough fibers cut into my skin. Pain seared through me, but I didn't stop, because while she was gloating, I spotted something, a jagged piece of metal on the floor, just inches from my chair leg. If I could just reach it. She came closer again, crouching in front of me with a smirk. You know, she whispered, Michael used to tell me you were strong, that you'd fight if you had to. But look at you now, pathetic. Her words lit a fire in me. With one last, desperate yank, I freed one hand, snatched the shard of metal, and swung. She screamed as the sharp edge slashed across her arm, blood splattering the floor. I lunged for her, shoving her to the ground, my hands wrapping around the ropes on my legs, tearing them loose. She scrambled back, her eyes wide with shock and fury. You bitch. She shrieked, but I was already on my feet, grabbing the nearest object, a rusted pipe hand, pointing it at her like a weapon. Where's my phone? I snarled. Where is it? She laughed through gritted teeth, clutching her bleeding arm. You think this is over, she hissed. Even if you kill me, they'll still come for you. Michael made sure of it. My chest heaved as I gripped the pipe tighter. Then I guess I'll just have to burn his empire to the ground. Her smirk faltered for the first time, and that's when I realized she was scared, not of me, of what I might find, of what Michael left behind. I grabbed the keys from her pocket and ran for the door. Bursting into the freezing night, the snowstorm howled around me, the wind slicing my face. But I didn't stop, because I wasn't just running for my life anymore. I was running for the truth, and I was ready to destroy everything in my way. The storm was merciless as I sped down the icy road, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, blood pounding in my ears. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew where I had to end this sat. The address written on the back of that cursed photo, January 15th, it begins. Whatever Michael planned, I was going to end it before it started. When I reached the mansion again, the gates stood wide open, the security lights flickering against the swirling snow. I killed the engine and sat there for a moment, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Then I stepped out, the cold biting through my coat as I pushed through the gates. Inside, the house was silent, too silent. Every step echoed like a gunshot as I moved through the massive hall, past polished marble floors and glass walls that reflected my pale, furious face. And then I saw it. The study door locked, but not for long. I kicked it open and froze. Stacks of cash lined the walls, boxes of guns, passports, dozens of the Munda, different names, and on the desk, a single manila folder with my name scrawled across it in bold black ink. My breath caught as I opened it, and the floor vanished beneath me. Inside were photos of me everywhere, me at the grocery store, me visiting friends, me sleeping in my own bed. And notes, pages and pages of notes. Every habit, every secret, every weakness. Michael had been watching me for years. The papers slipped from my hands as a sound behind me made my blood run cold. Clapping slow, mocking I turned, and there she was, the mistress, her arm bandaged, her lips curling into a venomous smile. "Well done, Catherine," she said softly, stepping into the room. "You made it." My chest heaved. "What is this? Why would Michael—" "Oh, sweetheart," she cut in, laughing softly. "Michael didn't do this for him. He did it for me." I stared at her, my stomach twisting. "For you." She stepped closer, her heels clicking like a metronome. "Michael was mine long before you came along. He loved me, trusted me, and when he died, he left everything to me." Her voice dropped to a whisper, her eyes glinting like knives. "And now, thanks to you walking straight into my hands, I have what I need to finish what he started." I shook my head, rage burning through me. "You're lying," she smiled coldly. "Am I? Look around you. This was never your life, Catherine. You were a placeholder, a puppet." My hands curled into fists as she pulled something from her coat, a gun, sleek and black, gleaming under the dim light. "Goodbye, Catherine," she said softly. "You were fun while you lasted." But before she could pull the trigger, a deafening bang shattered the air. Her eyes widened, blood bloomed across her chest as she crumpled to the floor, the gun slipping from her hand. I spun around, and there stood Daniel, gun in hand, face like stone. "You okay?" he asked. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the lifeless body on the floor. Daniel holstered his weapon and stepped toward me. You were never supposed to find this place, he said, glancing around at the cash, the weapons, the chaos. Michael built an empire, and he kicked the mistress's gun away, was about to take it all. With you out of the way. I swallowed hard. Daniel, how do you know all this? He hesitated. Then his jaw tightened, because I was his right hand, and now he looked at me with eyes as cold as the storm outside. It's all yours. My breath caught. Mine. I don't want this. Daniel's lips curled into a thin smile. Oh, Catherine, he murmured, you already own it. Every account, every property, every secret. It's all in your name now. Michael made sure of that. The weight of his words crushed me. I stared at the folder, the money, the guns, the empire my husband built behind my back. And then I looked at Daniel. Burn it, I whispered. He raised an eyebrow. What? Burn it? All my voice was steel now. Every account, every property, every trace of Michael's empire. I want it gone. Daniel stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled, as you wish. As the flames roared and the mansion crumbled behind us, I stood in the snow, watching everything Michael built turn to ashdot, and for the first time since that funeral, I felt free. But as Daniel handed me a new passport and said, "Time to disappear," a chilling thought curled through my mind. Was I walking away from the darkness, or stepping deeper into it? I tightened my coat against the cold, the passport heavy in my hand, and whispered to the wind, "Goodbye, Michael."